So thank you very much, John, for having me this morning. And thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. It's great to see lots of familiar faces in the gallery view. So as John said, I am Siofra Caherty. I'm from County Armagh and I run design studio Jump the Hedges. Okay, so today, as John said, our theme is nature, and nature is a subject that's very close to my heart and very close to obviously my business too, and it's very much encompasses everything I do. It's related to all aspects of my life and my work, so that's why this is something I'm keen to talk about. I could talk about this for hours. So when I'm given a brief or a job, anything, I always do like a brain dump. So this was my brain dump I did for this subject, for nature. And as you can see, I have a lot of things going on. I had activities, I had design, creativity, environment, well-being, inspiration and health. And I contacted a lot of friends and I asked them what nature meant to them. And I got lots of voice notes and lots of responses, and it was really interesting listening to everybody, because there was a whole spectrum of things. Some people said nature was very important for their mental well-being, for spirituality, for just to keep them going, really. And then other people said that it was integral to the design process, looking at things like biomimicry and how everything must be reflective of what's around us in order to be aesthetically pleasing, in order to function, in order to work. So I looked at all aspects of this, and normally my talks are around recycling and sustainability and stuff, but I wanted to make this one a bit more personal and a bit more inspiring, really. And because of what's going on at the moment, I thought a wee inspiration will do none of us any harm. So 2009, I graduated from NCAD, and NCAD is, for those of you that aren't from here, it's the National College of Art and Design, and it's in Dublin, and it's a highly competitive course. I did fashion design. And when I look back, when I was doing this presentation, when I look back, I realized, I was thinking, how important has nature been to me and my journey? And I thought about a quote that one of my tutors said to me when I was getting ready to leave. And I was saying to him, I was saying, look, I don't know whether I really want to go to London. I can't really see myself being in London. It's not really, I'm just not really interested in that kind of lifestyle. And he said, go where you want, work will follow. And I remember kind of looking at him a bit incredulously, thinking, but I'm a graduate with no experience. I kind of have to go straight to London or some of these big bustling cities that where the fashion industry is. And now when I look back in retrospect, I see that, you really can go where you want and work will follow. So when I looked at some of the places that I've worked at, I'm not going to go into these places too much in detail. I'm going to keep everything short and straight to the point today. I looked at Port West, which is the first place I worked in, and that's on the west coast of Ireland in County Mayo. And this was the view from my back door. That's not my picture now. These are some of the images I got. But this is literally the view from my back door in Clew Bay. And I look back now and I'm like, oh, that was actually quite nature driven. I was working as an outdoor clothing designer. I was designing wetsuits. I was wear testing the wetsuits in the evenings after work. I was designing jackets, and it was very nature focused. Now I realize. Then I moved to America and I was living in San Francisco, and I distinctly remember prior to going to San Francisco, myself and a group of friends went on a graduate visa, and we had to, some other friends were going to New York, and New York was the obvious choice. It was the fashion capital of America and almost of the world. And I remember like Googling at home, America or San Francisco or New York, and this like quote came up and it said, go to New York if you want to party all night and be in a big bustling busy city. Go to San Francisco if you want to climb the hills and bike the bridge. And I said, yeah, I think I see myself in San Francisco more. So that was my decision made. And then when I moved to Germany to work for Adidas, I was in this beautiful little Bavarian village in Nuremberg, and it was really idyllic and gorgeous. At the weekends people skied, and during the summer you went up the mountains and to the forest, and everything was outside, everything was nature focused, and every work day ended like there was no one in the office after 5 o'clock, and on a Friday the office was empty from lunchtime, and it was very outdoors focused, very nature focused, and very family and environmentally focused. It was really an amazing place to be based and to work. And then I moved home to Ireland, and I decided that I wanted to live in the West Coast again, but this time in the beautiful Galway. And this is the Claddagh we're looking at here. And we're actually looking at a house that I lived in for a period of time when I was in Galway. And I got a job in Galway working as a biomedical device designer. So to go from a fashion designer to a biomedical device designer, so, you know, mad things can actually happen. So people think that if you study something like fashion design, that you're going to pigeonhole yourself. Absolutely not. I always say if you can design something, you can design anything really. And then this takes me back to most recently Jump the Hedges, and I decided I want to be based in the north. I wanted to be based near home, and so that's the beautiful Mournes, which are on my doorstep really, and that was very important for me to be based somewhere. So I essentially created my own job, and that's what Jump the Hedges has been. It's been a job I imagined that I want, and I've tried to create it over the past couple of years. So let's go back before that. So 2006 was my first summer in NCAD. I was in the first year, and I had this mad notion that I really wanted to go to work at a summer camp in America, probably from growing up reading too many American books and watching The Parent Trap too many times. But I decided that, you know, this was going to be the thing for me. And I still don't really know why I thought it was a better idea to go to the Midwest of Wisconsin as opposed to going to Hawaii with all my friends. But I did. I headed off by myself and ended up at YMCA at Camp Mattawa. And it was definitely an experience of a lifetime, and not what I expected it to be. And I had a friend that was working at a camp in upstate New York, and he was looking after Will Smith's kids. And he was like getting $100 tips several times a week and all this sort of stuff. My camp was absolutely not like that. My camp was like really, really strict, and it wasn't what I imagined it would be. It definitely was a character building process, but and it paved the way for other things also. But it was very nature focused. It was very outdoors, and it was what I wanted. You know, I had decided that I had spent too much of the previous year sitting at a desk and drawing and painting, which sounds lovely and everything, but when anything is under education pressure, there'll always be a pressure there. And I decided I wanted the summer of like canoeing and outdoors and camping and all this kind of stuff, and I got it. And you know, it was the most outdoorsy experience I'd ever had. Like, the Americans do outdoors properly, you know, they have all the gear, all the stuff, and it was mad. So then if we go forward 6 years later to 2012, I was working in Adidas, and I had the task of designing a outdoor clothing kids collection. And I had to, whenever you're in Adidas anyway, it was very open with regards to themes and concepts and ideas. And I basically had to design a collection that was for kids, but around a theme that I wanted. So I chose camp, and I thought about this experience I had at camp. I thought about the kids that I met in that summer. I met something like 800 kids, and I thought about what they wanted, what their needs were, and I designed my collection based on that experience I had had during college. So while at the time it probably would have been made more sense to go and do an internship in London, instead I went to the camp. It actually was much more beneficial for me in working in a place like Adidas. So this was the mood board I presented, and it was all about exploration, discovery, dreaming, creating something that was durable, and just a bit you know, so quite like a dreamy idea of being able to run away and being in camp and those kind of long hot summers. This was the concept board. So the difference between mood and concept is that mood is your feeling, what you want to evoke in someone whenever they look at what you're doing, and then your concept is more about where your design lines come from. So say you have like a seam line or a design detail or a stitch line or something, that's where your concept will come in. So I looked at horizons, I looked at sunsets, I kind of digitalized these and made them quite linear and simple, and then looked at like climbing walls and origami, all kind of quite straight structures. And then within that, you create a color story. And the color story, because it's kids wear, there's a smaller budget for kids wear than like the adults clothing, so the colors have to complement, so there'll be crossovers, so the palette has to be quite complementary for both male and female. So this is some of the boards that I presented, and this is girls and boys, and I did my best to get as little pink as possible in, but the marketing team insisted on it. We had initially gone down the route of like greens and purples, but then they pulled it back. There always has to be a little bit of pink, unfortunately, I feel, but I loved the boys actually more than the females. And then it's a big collaboration, you know, we collaborate with the graphic designers, you collaborate with the footwear designers, and it's a very exciting process. And I distinctly remember when I presented this work to the team, you present to everyone, you present to all the senior directors, and it's a pretty nerve-wracking thing. And I remember at the end of one of the presentations, it was the first time I'd ever done anything that big, and one of the senior directors came up and said, because I told my whole story about going to camp, and he was like, "That's so cool that you had that experience at camp. Like, I didn't realize that. That's really interesting, you know." And I thought that was that for me really struck a chord, and it really made me realize, God, you know, it's all about having interesting experiences and doing things that you're passionate about, as opposed to doing what you feel you should be doing. So this was the photo shoot in the Austrian Alps, and they look class, don't they? And just, yeah, all these real outdoorsy little German kids. So flash forward now to 2016. 2016 was basically the launch of Jump the Hedges. I had worked in other places, which I've just flash forwarded past, and I decided that I wanted to create my own. I wanted to live in the north. I wanted to be near family and friends, but I wanted to create my own job. I couldn't see any jobs that I liked, so I decided I'll create my own job. And it's not as simple as it sounds, I'm sure you all know that, but so I developed Jump the Hedges, and this was my graduate collection. The whole point of my graduate collection was creating bags for carrying yoga mats. I noticed a gap in the market, really, especially when I was living in San Francisco. I knocked coffee out of people's hands on several occasions because I had this bag that carried my mat horizontally, and I decided I wanted to create a range of bags that carried a yoga mat in a comfortable way, but were made from sustainable materials. And I had initially been looking at all these really lovely Japanese recycled polyesters, and they just were, they didn't really sit comfortably with me, that the fact that I was buying a recycled fabric when there were so many fabrics still available. So that's why I decided to use what was around me. And this is some more images from that photo shoot that we actually shot in Trinity in Dublin, which is a really lovely place for a photo shoot because it's such a nice, simple background. So now flash forward to 2020, and so far this year for all of us has been a bit mad, really, hasn't it? And for me, Jump the Hedges has evolved quite a lot in the past years particularly, but actually since lockdown, I feel like I've got a grasp more so on my brand a bit better. And this quote from Tommy Tiernan has really, really struck me. And it was, "True creativity is not beautiful. It is ugly and unexpected, uncomfortable and misunderstood." And that's something that's really struck me recently, and I've thought a lot about. And I really feel like I'm very aware of Instagram culture, especially from teaching part-time. I'm aware of students lacking in confidence with their own drawing ability, with their own design ability. And this quote really speaks to me, because I think it's across the board. People they really lack confidence in their own creativity because of the fact that they feel it has to be this beautiful perfection, and it really isn't the case. And that true creativity isn't beautiful, and it has to be this unexpected, awkward, uncomfortable thing that will eventually become a bit more interesting and more beautiful, but initially it definitely isn't. So this is me, and this is like right behind me here now. This is my normal habitat. I make all the bags. I'm trying to change that because I want to be able to spend more time on design. So I'm going to source local manufacturing, but at the moment that's definitely not easy. But want to I want to be able to send things out so that I can actually spend more time designing new products, because I'm constantly getting asked, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do custom stuff? And I just don't have the time because I'm doing everything. I'm sourcing material, I'm washing the material. Well, I'm getting it industrially washed, but it sometimes doesn't come back perfect, and then I have to cut, so market, website, everything, you know. So I definitely want to be able to send things out in the future. So Jump the Hedges, the name comes from a Van Morrison song, Sweet Thing. So I'll stroll my merry way and jump the hedges first, and drink the clear, clean water for to quench my thirst. And for me, Jump the Hedges is really an embodiment of movement, of nature, of being outside, of being free, and of running. It's very much Belfast based and proud, and Belfast built. And also I'm from the border region, so I feel like both areas have quite similar histories, and I feel there's a great tenacity and a great resourcefulness in people that are from these more troubled areas, really, I suppose. And that's something that I'm really like proud about within my work as well, because I think it really has shaped me as who I am, and also shaped me as a designer. I'm very resourceful and can create something from nothing, which is basically is what I do. So this is currently what I use, which is the curtain sides of lorries or truck tarpaulin. I am sourcing other materials and different things, and looking at airplane seats, and looking at life raft material and all sorts of things. I'm trying to just use recycled materials, existing materials. But within this as well, I do other things, and the business has 3 strands. It's community, design, and education. So the design is creating my bags and maybe doing like freelance work too. The community is doing maybe corporate events or festival events or talks or workshops. And then the education, I did some work with local schools here in North Belfast on sustainability and education. And all 3 streams are equally important to me. If anything, the education stream is becoming more and more important, and the bags are almost becoming nearly like the merchandise or something. But because to me, the education is the most important part of this whole journey. And on the left here, as a podcast I did earlier in the year with Tara Stewart from 2FM. And that was a great opportunity because that reached a whole new audience for me. And that's another reason why this morning I'm not spending loads of time talking about recycling and sustainability, because I'd be preaching to the choir. I feel like everyone in this room probably owns a Keep Cup. You know, it's important to sort of look at the other side and the other importance of nature and how it inspires us creatively. And then on the right is a workshop that I was leading earlier in the year. And this is the format and what my workshops tend to look like normally. So I'm not sure when I'll be doing one of those again, but they're successful and people really enjoy them. And what's nice about the workshops too is that they're accessible for everyone in every age group. And I do different kinds of things, and mainly I make like little like tassel key rings and stuff. And I've yet to see a bad tassel, so they always turn out pretty good. So during lockdown, I have been having to be a bit more resourceful, and it's been really good for me because I've had to use all this material around me that I've been gathering up over the past couple of years, because it's pretty tempting if someone phones me and says, here, I have a tarp or whatever, do you want it? I'm like, yeah, okay. And I've like no space for it, but I have to say yes. And so suddenly I'm not being offered anything and I can't source anything. So I have to use what's around me. So I've like had to like go through all my stuff, and I definitely work better within restrictions personally. And I do remember being at Adidas and going into the trims library, and a trim is like your zip puller or like your inner like lining on a tab or something, and being totally overwhelmed with all these books and books and books of trims and just not really knowing how to make a decision. So for me, working this way is actually much better. I work well within restrictions and have to be creative and resourceful. So I came up with this idea of fanny at home. So one of my best seller currently are my fanny bags, like bum bags, and people just think it's hilarious that it's called fanny, you know. And so I did this thing called fanny at home, or fanny sawalia, which is Irish for fanny at home. And people are just sending me pictures of themselves messing about in their houses with their fanny bags. and it's going really well. I'm getting some great stuff, and it's great crack as well. I think that's a really key part of it, is that for me, this has to be good crack. And for those of you who don't know what that means, that the non-Irish people, basically good fun, good banter. It has to be enjoyable. Otherwise, what is the point in doing it? So this is one of the first ones I got. So I hope this won't be too loud now, because when I'm playing it, it tends to like make me jump a bit. So this is she's a professional dancer from Galway. Her name is Stephanie DeFresney, and she's been in loads of stuff, and she's like class. So this is one of the first videos I got from the Fannies at Home project. Then this is Aoife Mulvena. So Aoife is an architect and stylist based here in Belfast, and this is her just in her front living room with a sheet hanging behind her, and just basically messing about with the bag. And I just love how organic everything has to be right now, is that people are just making use of taking pictures in their own home, and there's something quite vulnerable about seeing people in their own houses and in their own rooms. And I think that for me is making it's making my work more accessible and more realistic as well. This is a local photographer in Belfast. It's called Simon Mills, and I absolutely love Simon's work. And Simon contacted me and said that he was using the bag to take recordings throughout a locked down Belfast. And this is recordings that he took from his backyard in East Belfast. And I just love it. It's like, so I'm going to play it for you now, and it's like bird song, it's his drain dripping, and then his wife Lorna making marmalade. And if you don't know anything about that marmalade and you're based here, it's called Taka Cucina, and it's unreal. So to finish up, I found this poem that I felt was really quite relevant for right now and the season that we're in, and everything is very much in bloom. And it's called The Trees, and it's by Philip Larkin. And I'll just read it out to you here. So if you're enjoying my South Armagh lilt accent, you can close your eyes and sit back there. The trees. The trees are coming into leaf, like something almost being said. The recent buds relax and spread. Their greenness is a kind of grief. Is it that they are born again and we grow old? No, they die too. Their yearly trick of looking new is written down in rings of grain. Yet still the unresting castles thresh in full-grown thickness every May. Last year is dead, they seem to say. Begin afresh, afresh, afresh. So if I just leave you with that, begin afresh, 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 as an idea for now, for this post-lockdown life we're going to come into, just to begin afresh, afresh, afresh. Thank you.
Awesome. That was really good. Thank you so much, Siofra. God, you've had a busy life. My God. So, listen, guys, does anybody have any questions for Siofra? I'm going to kick it off just to kind of, if you don't mind. So, Siofra, what do you think you would be doing if you weren't, if you hadn't started Jump the Hedges? What do you think you would still be away, or were you always planning on moving home, or like where do you think your life would be?
If I had not started this, I probably would still be working in design. You know, I kind of feel like I couldn't not really work in design or creative element. If I was to be doing something totally different than this, I would be an Irish teacher. Would probably be my other thing, is that I'm very passionate Gaeilge or Irish language speaker, and that would probably be my opposite thing if I was to do something totally different. But if I wasn't here in Belfast doing this right now, I probably would still be in Germany. Adidas was a great company to work for, and I probably would still be there, but I definitely missed home a lot when I was there. So that was what took me home.
Yeah. Had you always kind of decided, you know, did you go away with the intention of always kind of coming back to Northern Ireland, or had you kind of just went, I'm going to go away indefinitely and just kind of see how it goes, and we'll figure it out when we come to it?
Oh no, I always wanted to come back. Definitely. No, I'm a home bird. Like everyone laughs at me. I'm really like, I have to get certain tea bags. I have to get certain crisps. I'm obsessed with drinking Guinness. I'm a bit of a parody of myself at times. In fact,
I don't care what anybody says. Guinness just is not the same when you're not at home. It's like when I lived in Canada, the amount of times I had to teach people to pour the proper pint is ridiculous. Anyway, so I've got a question here from Gillian Brownlow. Gillian, where are you? And I'm going to make you. There she is, Gillian. I'm going to unmute you. So fill your boots. Oh, have you got your sound connected?
Yeah, that's her.
There we go. There you go. You should be live.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. A really good presentation. Just wondered if you could tell me what the main challenges of starting your own business have been for you.
That's a good question, Gillian. The main challenge, the two main challenges have been financial and confidence. And interestingly, I was doing a course there a week or two ago, and they were talking about what is the main challenge in your business. They asked that question, and whenever we talked about it in groups, we all came down to ourselves, because initially I was like, oh, financial, yeah, it is difficult. You know, that was immediately my response. And then when we looked at all like the reasons why, it actually was like, oh, actually, no, it's confidence. It's like the confidence of putting something out there, and the confidence of someone potentially not liking it, potentially not buying it. Like anybody that got a Jump the Hedges bag off me 3 years ago, they got it for a steal, because I was totally underpricing myself. Like I wasn't getting paid at all. And it's the confidence of like saying, oh, hopefully someone will actually appreciate this and see the effort I've put into this. But it's very hard to make that leap to put yourself out there. And I think that all comes back to that whole Instagram culture we've created of having something perfect, and the fear of it not being perfect. And I look at Instagram profiles and seeing all these like stock images that aren't their own images, and I kind of like, what's wrong with taking a bad photo and putting it up? It's different if it's a photography profile. Yeah, you need to have nice photos. But if you're a small designer startup, you don't need all this fancy stuff. You just need to have integrity and determination.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, have you had any financial input from anywhere? Has that been something that you've been able to tap into?
No, not at all, Gillian. That's something that I must say I'm quite frustrated about by being based here in the north, is that there's been absolutely no financial support to me from Invest NI, and it's really quite frustrating, because there's several programs that I have tried to apply to, but I'm not seen as tech enough. And businesses that maybe would have got in and I didn't get in to programs a couple of years ago, like they're gone, but I'm still going. So the benefit of that is that it has made me the ultimate hustler. Like I have multiple jobs going on at the one time. I was part-time teaching constantly up until last year. I run my workshops, I do corporate speaking events, and then I do freelance design. So the benefit is that I'm constantly, I know how to make money, and I know how to sell. So that is the good thing, and not being given a chunk of money from the government. The bad thing is that it would be pretty nice to be able to be, by being given an amount of money, you're basically being given time, and it would be nice to be given that time to create and be a bit more flexible. And that's what I feel like now. Actually, I'm feeling slightly more relaxed now during the lockdown, because there's not the same pressure.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I am. Sorry, it was muted there. So we have a comment from Deirdre Kelly. Deirdre, do you want to unmute and we'll have a chat? Deirdre's going al fresco outside.
Well, I see the battery's about to go. So just want to say well done. Really enjoyed that whole thing of creativity coming out no matter where you live. Great talk, Siofra. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deirdre. I like your background garden view there.
It's,
I know, but there's no electricity, so I'm about to disappear. Thank you, Siofra. Bye.
Thank you.
So, and then we have another question from Eva in Moldova. Eva, I'm going to mute you and you can crack on. Let me just see. There we go. Go ahead, Eva.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hey, it's a wee bit quiet. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was interested if from having worked with big brands, you could see their approach for sustainability and if it's a focus.
Yeah. So when I started my design career like 10 years ago, when I left university, sustainability wasn't really a big focus, and it wasn't a thing. It wasn't really even a word. It wasn't something we discussed at university. Sustainability never came up in the conversation when I was at art college. It wasn't a thing at all. And then, but I was into recycling. I was always recycling. We did composting in my family home. It was like the done thing. It was normal to me. But to apply that to fashion, it didn't even cross my mind really. And then when I worked at Adidas, that's when I started to become more aware, because we did zero waste design, which is where we created garments with as little seams as possible or as little wastage. And yeah, so at Adidas, definitely it all came to play, and they have a huge focus on sustainability, and they're doing really, really good work. And their whole Parley Ocean range, where they're making trainers from recycled ocean plastic. And when I was there like 7 years ago, we did for the outdoor clothing range, we did a whole range of like using recycled materials, and everything was zero waste and design led. And yeah, so with regards to that brand, yes, definitely. And then I see it now everywhere. I think that all the brands, there's a certain expectation from consumers to showcase what you're doing and why you're doing it, and consumers are demanding more transparency. And what my hope is that sustainability will no longer be a conversation in a couple of years. That'll just be a given, and that your sustainability rating will be part of your whole brand profile. And I think that is the way it's going to go, but the only way that can go is through a government policy. That's the only way that can happen.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
My only concern right now is that there's a lot of greenwashing, because
Yes.
people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Even a lot of greenwashing, and that's why if there was a government policy, that would get rid of the greenwashing, because then you'd have to meet certain demands. You'd have to submit certain paperwork and standards. So I think the first step is what's happening, and then the necessary step has to be government intervention. Otherwise, it shouldn't be on the consumer. Like it isn't our responsibility to have to go through all these brands trying to figure out who's the most sustainable. It's up to a higher level to kind of make that easy for us.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Siofra, we just have one more question from Lily. So Lily, I'm gonna unmute you and I'm gonna let you fill your boots. There you go.
Hello.
Okay, Lily.
I just had a question of how you made that connection with the lorry companies to get the tarps. Like how did that start off in the first place?
That started off initially with banner cloth material I was using, and I got that from like Antrim Council, and that didn't really work for me, and I wanted something that was more heavy duty but equally as colourful and interesting. So I basically just started phoning people up, and I just used my South Armagh charm and up on multiple lorry yards and high vis vests, asking people, oh, what are you doing with that one, and what are you doing with that one? And now what's happened is that people actually contact me and they say, oh, are you the girl that uses these tarps? And they think it's hilarious. They think it's really funny, and they're like, oh, well, I can get you one. And I think sometimes they feel a bit sorry for me too, because I used to drive a wee tiny Yaris, and I remember like pulling up at a yard one day, and he somehow fit about a 30-foot tarp in the back of the Yaris, and my exhaust fell out. So I think there's like a pity element there too. I think they're sort of like, oh, God help her, yeah, we'll help you as much as we can. So yeah, so it's been definitely an ongoing relationship building thing, and I absolutely would love if my material came on a roll. I would love that. Like, I've got stacks of stuff here behind me, and it is quite torturous at times, but the beautiful kind of colors and shapes you get out of it, and the fact that it's really true recycling and true sustainability is what keeps me at it.
Great.
Good stuff. Well, that's all the questions that we have, Siofra. So once again, everybody join me in thanking Siofra for taking the time out and for prepping our talk today and joining us this morning. Siofra was amazing. Keep doing what you're doing and fighting a good fight. It's you're like I say, I hope you've kind of inspired some of the people that have been in here who are either thinking about going out on their own or thinking about doing something that they've always kind of wanted to do. So thanks very much. Really appreciate it.